Hello and welcome to Mad Hatter News, where everything is madness outside of this Mad Hatter Tea Party, except for here, which this is the only place that's going to make sense, ironically enough. Today we're going to talk about Thomas Fugate, who is the head of anti-terror in the United States now. Yeah, this Dr. Evil looking picture is real. He is a 22-year-old fresh college graduate who was just appointed by Donald Trump to be the head of anti-terror for the United States. Now you might be wondering, what kind of qualifications does he have? Grocery store employee. Yeah, I'm not kidding. On Thomas Fugate's resume, the last job he has was a grocery store employee. Now, I'm not talking bad about grocery store employees. I was one at one point, but I didn't then get a job as the head of anti-terror for the United States. You might be wondering, maybe he went to school for this, which is exactly what I was wondering. I'm like, maybe he went for, I don't know, at least cybersecurity, something that would make sense that he is the head of anti-terror. But no. He went to school at the University of Texas in San Antonio. No hate to the University of Texas in San Antonio. It's a fabulous school, but I would expect someone who got a job immediately after college as being the head of anti-terror for the United States of America. And I'm talking the head. He's not just working there. He's not just a part of the team. He's in charge of the team. He's in charge of anti-terror for the United States. I would expect that person to have an education that makes sense for the job that they're getting immediately after college, and I would have expected that type of education to be at an Ivy League school. I don't know. I know that people that would go to the University of Texas San Antonio could maybe build a career to where it would make sense for them to get into that role, but being hired directly from that school, having no education in the field, and then becoming that role is insane. Let's just call it what it is. It's insane. They're saying that he went to school for politics, but they didn't say he went to school for political science. They didn't say that that was his degree at all. And mind you, he has a bachelor's degree. He's 22 years old. He didn't even have extended education. He went to school for 4 years, just like the basic bachelor education. And again, they didn't tell us what he actually went to school for. They didn't say it was political science. They just said he studied politics. What does that mean? What was his GPA? They also said that he studied law as well. But he didn't go to law school. He never went to law school. How are you going to say that he studied law when he didn't go to law school? He went and got his bachelor's for 4 years at the University of Texas, San Antonio. How are you going to say he studied law? What does that even mean? I studied law. I studied media law in college. Then do I get to say that I studied law? That's not something that would have ever come to my mind, ever. I would never go out and claim, I studied law in college. Just because I studied media law. That makes no sense. And frankly, that's disrespectful to actual people who went to law school. So who is this guy? Well, he was a landscaper and he worked at a grocery store. That's what he is. Now, what is his background with the Trump administration? He interned at the Heritage Foundation. Yeah. So if you don't know, the Heritage Foundation is basically a terror group. And I talked about this before on my channel. I mentioned it briefly in the last episode that I had. But the Heritage Foundation is basically wanting to have trad wives, which is the traditional family where there's one man of the household and a woman who stays home and raises the kids. They kind of want that to be the ideal around the board. They're very anti any other way to do things. If you're LGBTQ+, if your kid identifies as trans, if you're pro-gay marriage, if you're pro-gay couples adopting kids and getting them out of the foster care system, which 81% of the females in the foster system are, okay? Like, that is definitely a thing. That's a statistic that we know is true. If there are couples that want to adopt kids and get them out of the foster care system and into loving families, they're against that. They're against that if you don't follow what they like, right? If you are not one man of the household, one woman of the household, they're not about it. They would rather you get euped, okay, than have a loving household. That's really what this is. But it doesn't just stop there. They really want to change the fundamentals of the United States as a whole. They're defunding education. They're defunding public service programs. They're defunding a lot of things that usually conservatives would be for. So conservatives know that these federal programs are good because they help people get on their feet, like SNAP benefit programs. I personally, I'm not gonna sit here and deny it. I benefited from SNAP in my life as well. I lost my job at one point and I had to go on unemployment and I got SNAP, which is food stamps. basically. And I was on that for a bit until I got another job again. That's what it's for. Conservatives aren't against that. Conservatives are for that because it funds a good society and helps people get on their feet so they can continue to contribute to that society and pay taxes. I've talked about Moms of Liberty on my channel too before. They came out as a grassroots thing where it was just a bunch of moms that wanted to bring moms together and be trad wives and be cute. But 2 weeks after their foundation, they are on Fox News. That's not how grassroots efforts work. They're usually not just in business for 2 weeks before they're on Fox News. Okay, there's a lot going on behind the scenes with Moms of Liberty that made them have the reach and the influence that they did. And it's because they were backed by the Heritage Foundation. But that was all undercover. They've only recently, since January, become officially a part of the Heritage Foundation. This is something that we were expecting to happen, but it took a pretty long time for them to come out with it. But we knew the Heritage Foundation was behind Moms of Liberty this whole time. Moms of Liberty really wanted to take away the sex education out of schools. They didn't want to talk about anything to do with race or anything to do about the history of the United States, which involves a lot of racism and a lot of slavery. If we don't teach history, we repeat it. Right? We're doomed to repeat it. There is that famous quote. It is such a true quote. If we don't study history, we're doomed to repeat it. But that's exactly what they want to do. They want you to just have one man, one wife, married, not divorced, and kids in the household. The mom stays home. Maybe she does some social justice things if Moms of Liberty really thinks they're doing social justice work. And they want the man to go out and 1960s it and, bring in the bread. But who is really doing that these days? These men are not high value these days as much as they were apparently in the 60s. They're not out there bringing in the dough. The women are. There's a lot of men that are like, I'm not going to take care of a woman. I need her to work. Why would a woman expect me to do this for her? That's just how a lot of men think these days. Financial dependence can very easily turn into a form of prostitution. I said it. Financial dependence can very easily turn into a form of slavery. I said it. We really have to think critically on this. Not everybody has a good heart. Not everybody is trying to have good values in the home. Not everybody is doing the right thing, right? And if you did have a good heart, you would know that not everybody's going to live life exactly like you, and you shouldn't be forcing them to do it. Moms of Liberty, who is a part of the Heritage Foundation, is now forcing kids to be ostracized from their school, validating people who do not accept LGBTQ plus kids in school, making them feel ostracized, making them feel like they don't belong, and basically telling them that they don't exist and it's all a demon. And of course, they're very, very, very Christian. And I say that with quotes because Jesus, as we know of that man, would have never done anything like this. Jesus is not the type to ostracize or make people feel out of place. Really, Moms of Liberty is fighting for what The Handmaid's Tale ultimately became. They want this life. That is what they're striving for. So I want to be clear that that is his only credence for this role, is to be a part of the Heritage Foundation, and he wasn't even being paid. He was an intern in college. I interned in college. I interned at a radio station. Does that mean that I should have been the head of the radio for all of the United States? No. And the Heritage Foundation has nothing to do with terror or anti-terror either, so that didn't even make sense. So this dude is working directly with the FBI now, and he is like the go-to guy. He's the one that's calling the shots for anti-terror for the United States. He has absolutely no history in this, no education, no experience. He doesn't know what he's doing. We're in danger, okay? We're in danger. He has yet to speak out about this, and we've yet to know too much about him. In fact, it says on Wikipedia that he was born in 2002 or 2003. Wikipedia doesn't even know. We don't really know much about this dude. But what we do know is that he doesn't know what he's doing, and his headshot looks like Dr. Evil. Is this real life? Like, what is happening? I don't even know. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, because I think this is crazy. You should probably think it's crazy. If you're not in the United States, pray for us. At least send us good wishes, because what is this? Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. This is a shorter video than usual. If you don't know who I am, definitely subscribe so you see more videos like this, because we talk about a lot on my channel, and you can probably go back and see a lot of cool videos that you haven't seen too. I don't know, maybe. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.